Good afternoon, everyone. This is the news with b.c.begley. I am your host, yours truly, and it's Monday, November the 17th, 2025, and let's jump into the top news stories of the day. At least 120 people, including 100 police officers, were injured during large anti-government protest in Mexico City. Thousands marched to condemn rising violence and Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum's security policies, following the recent assassination of a mayor, Carlos Manzo. Demonstrators clashed with police near the National Palace, leading to tear gas use and 20 arrests. Sheinbaum claimed the protests were funded by right-wing opponents, despite being organized by Gen Z groups angered by cartel violence, the BBC has reported. Although the president maintains high approval ratings, she does face growing criticism at home and abroad as regional tensions, including Peru cutting diplomatic ties, intensify. New York Jets cornerback Chris Boyd was critically wounded in a shooting early Sunday morning in Midtown Manhattan. He was shot in the abdomen outside faceless restaurant after a dispute escalated, though it remains unclear whether he was the intended target. The shooter fled in a BMW X6. Another luxury vehicle also left the scene as witnesses refused to cooperate with law enforcement. Boyd was rushed to Bellevue Hospital, where he remains in critical but stable condition, and no arrests have been made, the New York Post has reported. The 29-year-old, currently on injured reserve, joined the Jets this season after previous stints with the Vikings, the Cardinals, and the Texans. Reverend Jesse Jackson, who is 84 years old, remains hospitalized as he is treated for unstable blood pressure while managing progressive supranuclear palsy, or PSP, which is a rare neurodegenerative disorder confirmed last year. His condition briefly worsened Saturday night with a significant drop in blood pressure, but he has since shown periods of responsiveness and is now breathing on his own without life support medication. Family members say he even expressed wishes about charitable efforts, including a call for churches to prepare food baskets for the holiday season. Jackson has lived with neurological illness for more than a decade, initially diagnosed as Parkinson's disease before PSP was confirmed, CNN has reported. A historic civil rights leader and founder of Operation Push and the Rainbow Coalition, Jackson continues to receive close medical monitoring as his condition shows signs of improvement. U.S. Marines guarding the American embassy in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, exchanged gunfire with suspected Haitian gang members on the evening of November the 13th, though no Marines were injured. The United States Marine Corps said the attackers fired first, prompting Marines supporting embassy security operations to return fire. Officials released no details on what triggered the confrontation, how long it lasted, or whether any attackers were wounded or killed. The incident occurred amid ongoing clashes between Haitian police and gangs, as the country faces deepening instability following the president's 2021 assassination and continued waves of violence, Task and Purpose has reported. Additional Marine security teams have been rotating into Haiti throughout 2024 to reinforce the embassy amid the worsening security crisis. U.S. President Donald Trump has urged House Republicans to vote for the release of Jeffrey Epstein-related files, reversing his prior resistance. President Trump framed the move as a way to dismiss what he calls a, quote, Democratic hoax, while highlighting Republican achievements. Critics have accused him of attempting to conceal information, particularly after he ordered the Justice Department to investigate Democrats' alleged ties to Epstein. Republican and Democratic lawmakers pushing for full disclosure expressed concerns that President Trump's actions could be a distraction or even a, quote, smokescreen, The Guardian has reported. With Republicans holding a narrow House majority, more than 40 GOP members are expected to support releasing the documents. Federal Border Patrol agents arrested 81 people on the first day of Operation Charlotte's Web in Charlotte, North Carolina, a crackdown targeting illegal immigrants. The operation sparked protest and shuttered local businesses amid fears and uncertainty. Local officials and immigrant advocacy groups criticized the raids, saying many of those detained were workers performing everyday tasks rather than criminals, despite them being in the country illegally. Videos of arrest, including a U.S. citizen being handcuffed, have circulated on social media, fueling public outrage over the immigration raids, Axios has reported. Other North Carolina cities, including Asheville and New Orleans, are bracing for similar federal immigration actions. The FAA announced it is lifting all flight restrictions at 40 major U.S. airports that were imposed during the 2025 government shutdown. The restrictions, originally up to 6% of flights, were implemented to address safety concerns from staffing shortages among air traffic controllers who worked without pay during the shutdown. Flight cancellations peaked at over 2,900 on November the 9th, but dropped to less than 1% by the weekend as more controllers returned back to work. The FAA rescinded the order after reviewing safety trends and seeing a steady decline in staffing trigger events, NPR has reported. Airlines are expected to resume normal operations, easing disruptions ahead of the Thanksgiving travel period. The Pentagon conducted its 21st strike on an alleged drug trafficking vessel in the eastern Pacific Ocean, killing 3 men, this according to U.S. Southern Command. The U.S. military says the strikes targeted narcotic smuggling along known trafficking routes using fighter jets, drones, and gunships. This brings the total reported deaths from the campaign to 83, with officials claiming congressional approval is not required for the operations. Legal and diplomatic concerns have arisen, with experts questioning whether the strikes violate U.S. or international law, CNN has reported. Colombia and the United Kingdom have suspended intelligence sharing with the United States in response, citing objections to the ongoing attacks. The UK Labour government announced plans to drastically cut refugee protections, ending automatic benefits and shortening asylum status from 5 years to 30 months. Refugees would face regular reviews and be forced to return home once deemed safe, with long-term residency delayed from 5 to 20 years. The reforms, modeled on Denmark's strict system, aim to curb irregular migration and counter the rise of anti-immigrant Reform UK Party. Housing and financial support for asylum seekers would become discretionary, potentially denied to those able to work or who have committed crimes, CBS News has reported. Critics, including the Refugee Council, warned the measures will not deter crossings and call for policies that allow refugees to build secure lives in Britain. Firefighters from multiple agencies battled a massive fire at a decommissioned power plant near Galveston, Texas, which sent a large black plume of smoke over several nearby cities. The blaze, reported early on Sunday, involved 2 cooling towers and power lines, prompting authorities to advise residents to avoid the area and limit exposure to smoke. No injuries have been reported, and the fire was largely contained by Sunday afternoon, with crews managing additional spot fires around the plant. Air quality monitors showed safe readings, though officials continue to warn residents to stay clear of the site, ABC News has reported. The cause of the fire remains under investigation, and the power plant has been decommissioned in the 1990s. Okay, here's a look at the live weather radar from the National Weather Service. And now let's take a look at the National Weather Forecast for today. A storm system moving down the California coast will bring rain, thunderstorms, and heavy Sierra Nevada snow on Monday, with lighter precipitation lingering into Wednesday. Another developing system over the central Rockies will spread rain and higher elevation snow into the Plains, Mississippi Valley, and the Ohio Valley through Tuesday. Light snow is expected along the northern edge of this system, reaching parts of the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley by Tuesday morning. In the northeast, an upper-level low will generate lake-effect snow near Lake Erie in Ontario and produce upslope snow and higher terrain before tapering off by late Tuesday. Additional scattered showers are also expected in southeast central Florida through midweek. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi announced that the country is no longer enriching uranium at any site, following Israeli and U.S. attacks on its facilities back in June. He emphasized that all Iranian nuclear sites are under International Atomic Energy Agency monitoring, and that Iran maintains its right to peaceful nuclear enrichment. Aragachi also reiterated that Iran's message on nuclear negotiations with the United States and other nations remains, quote, clear and non-negotiable regarding its rights. The announcement came during a summit hosted by Iran's Institute for Political and International Studies, which framed the June war and Iran's responses as defensive and justified, NPR has reported. Despite this, Iran faces ongoing economic pressures, societal unrest, and vulnerability to further airstrikes due to the damage inflicted on its air defenses. Chile's presidential election will go to a December runoff between the Communist Party candidate Jeanette Yara and far-right candidate Jose Antonio Cast, as no clear contender won outright in Sunday's first round. The campaign focused heavily on crime and immigration, with both candidates pledging tougher measures against gangs and illegal migration. Cast, who narrowly trailed Jara, is expected to consolidate right-wing votes from other candidates, potentially shifting Chile further to the right. Jara, seen as center-left in practice, has emphasized economic development, lithium production, minimum wage increases, and border security, the BBC has reported. Both candidates plan to expand prisons, but Cast has proposed more extreme measures, including mass deportations, a border wall, and maximum security facilities, while Jara focuses on targeted expulsions for criminal foreigners. Japan is seeking to ease tensions with China after Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi suggested that a Chinese attack on Taiwan, threatening Japan, could trigger a military response. A high-ranking Japanese official will meet his Chinese counterpart in Beijing to clarify that Takaichi's remarks do not indicate a change in Japan's security policy and to urge China to avoid actions that further damage bilateral ties. The dispute has prompted China to advise its citizens to avoid Japan, a move that Tokyo called incompatible with their goal of a strategic, mutually beneficial relationship. Taiwan's president, Lai Ching-te, described China's actions as a, quote, multifaceted attack on Japan and called for international attention and Chinese restraint, Reuters has reported. The situation coincides with the upcoming G20 summit in South Africa, where Prime Minister Takaichi may have the opportunity to speak directly with China's Premier Li Qiang. Ecuadorian authorities captured Wilmer Chavarria, aka People, one of the country's most wanted drug traffickers, in Malaga, Spain, years after he faked his own death and relocated there. Chavarria is believed to lead Los Lobos, a drug trafficking group of around 8,000 members linked to political assassinations and collaborations with Mexico's Jalisco New Generation cartel. He reportedly coordinated drug shipments, ordered killings, and ran extortion schemes in Ecuador while using a false identity from Spain. Ecuador has faced rising violence in recent years as it has become a key transit point for cocaine from Colombia and Peru, ABC News has reported. Chavarria's capture coincides with a national referendum on allowing foreign countries to operate military bases in Ecuador to support anti-drug efforts. India's National Investigation Agency arrested Amir Rashid Ali from Indian-controlled Kashmir on suspicion of helping a suicide bomber carry out a deadly car explosion in New Delhi. The blast near the Red Fort on Monday killed 10 people and injured 32 others, with Umar Nabi, a Kashmiri doctor, identified as the suspected driver and suicide bomber. The attack followed the dismantling of a suspected militant cell in Kashmir, which led to multiple arrests and the seizure of bomb-making materials. As part of the investigation, Indian authorities conducted raids across Kashmir, detaining hundreds and questioning thousands, ABC News has reported. Hundreds of thousands of Filipinos gathered in Manila on Sunday for the largest rally yet, demanding accountability for a flood control corruption scandal. Investigations revealed that thousands of flood defense projects were substandard or non-existent, with lawmakers and public works officials allegedly taking kickbacks from construction companies. Smaller protests also took place, including one in Quezon City, attended by retired generals and other citizens. Authorities deployed thousands of police and military personnel to secure the rallies, which remained peaceful despite past clashes at similar demonstrations, the Associated Press has reported. Protesters called for justice and the return of misappropriated funds, while the presidential palace and surrounding roads were placed on lockdown for security. Ukraine signed a deal in Athens on Sunday to receive U.S. liquefied natural gas from LNG via pipelines from Greece's port of Alexandroupolis to Odessa, starting in January, during Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's visit. Until then, Greece will supply Ukraine with natural gas to meet winter needs and compensate for Russian attack damage to its energy infrastructure. The agreement followed an energy meeting in Greece in early November, involving U.S. officials, EU ministers, and LNG executives, highlighting U.S. efforts to replace Russian gas in Europe. Zelensky and the Greek Prime Minister also discussed Ukraine's post-war reconstruction, Greek acquisition of Ukrainian weapons, and continued support for Ukraine's EU membership trip to Greece. At least 32 people were killed when a makeshift bridge collapsed in Kalando copper and cobalt mine in southeastern Democratic Republic of the Congo amid overcrowding by wildcat miners. The incident occurred despite a formal ban on access due to heavy rain and landslide risks, and panic was reportedly triggered by soldiers firing at the site. The mine has long been contested between independent miners, a cooperative, and legal operators with Chinese involvement. Authorities suspended operations, and human rights groups called for an independent investigation into the military's role in the deaths, Al Jazeera has reported. The DRC, the world's largest cobalt producer, has faced long-standing issues with unsafe mining conditions, child labor, and corruption, with Chinese companies controlling most production. Iran has conducted cloud seeding operations over the Urmia Lake Basin to combat its worst drought in decades, with further efforts planned in East and West Azerbaijan. Urmia, the country's largest lake, has largely dried up, and rainfall nationwide is at record lows, leaving reservoirs nearly empty. Cloud seeding involves injecting chemicals like silver or potassium iodide into clouds to encourage condensation and rainfall. Authorities warned of possible water rationing in Tehran and announced penalties for excessive water use, while some rainfall and snowfall were reported in the west and the northwest over the weekend, the BBC has reported. Officials described this autumn as the driest in 50 years, with dams in several provinces at dangerously low levels. Israeli soldiers fired at UN peacekeepers near a position in Lebanese territory on Sunday, with heavy machine gun rounds landing just meters from the personnel, who were able to leave safely after the tank withdrew. Israel claimed the attack was accidental, blaming poor weather and mistaking the UN patrol for suspects. The UN condemned the incident as a serious violation of United Nations Security Council Resolution 1701, which ended the 2006 war and underpins the truce between Israel and Hezbollah. The Lebanese army condemned ongoing Israeli violations, calling them a dangerous escalation requiring immediate action, Al Jazeera has reported. The shooting is the latest in a series of attacks on UN peacekeepers amid Israel's near-daily strikes on Lebanon, which have killed thousands and displaced over 1 million people. Today is November the 17th, 2025, and on this day in history, in the year 1558, Elizabeth I became Queen of England after the death of her half-sister Mary I, beginning a reign that shaped the Elizabethan era. In the year 1863, the Battle of Knoxville began during the American Civil War, as Union forces prepared to defend the city against a Confederate attack. And in the year 1869, the Suez Canal officially opened, creating a vital shipping route between the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea. November the 17th is also National Homemade Bread Day. Okay, it's 19 past the hour, and let's do a quick market update. The Nasdaq is up 0.17%, Gold is down 0.06%. Oil is down 0.24%. Bitcoin is down again 0.67%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 0.37%, and the S&P 500 is down 0.35%. Hey, real quick while you're here, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. That way you can stay up to date on all of our news stories and our live show. And now let's go into the last block of news for today. A 7-year-old girl was swept into the Pacific Ocean near Garapata State Beach in Central California and then was found dead on Sunday, shortly after a diver located her body about 100 yards offshore. Her father, who was 39 years old, also died while trying to save her, while her mother was rescued with minor hypothermia. The family's 2-year-old child was unharmed. The deaths occurred amid a winter pattern storm that produced 15 to 20-foot surf, widespread flooding, and hazardous conditions along California's central coast, NBC News has reported. In a separate storm-related incident, a 71-year-old man in Sutter County died after his car was swept away by floodwaters. President Donald Trump criticized Indiana Republicans for resisting his push to redraw congressional maps mid-decade, threatening anyone who votes against redistricting, quote, should be primaried. He specifically targeted Senate President pro tempore Roderick Bray, Senator Greg Good, and Governor Mike Braun for allegedly obstructing efforts to expand Republican House control. Despite President Trump's pressure, the Indiana Senate determined there was insufficient support to move forward with new maps. 7 of Indiana's 9 U.S. House seats are currently held by Republicans, and President Trump aimed to increase that number, Axios has reported. The episode highlights the broader national redistricting battles, where Republican-led states like Texas, Missouri, and North Carolina have advanced aggressive maps, while others, including Indiana, Kansas, Nebraska, and New Hampshire, have resisted. A mass shooting in Newark, New Jersey on Saturday killed a 21-year-old woman and a 10-year-old boy, while wounding an 11-year-old and 2 men ages 19 and 60. The gunman opened fire on Chancellor Avenue, leaving at least 17 evidence markers at the scene, and authorities are actively investigating the incident. New York Mayor Ras Baraka called the shooting, quote, depraved and senseless, and urged the perpetrator to surrender. Police and detectives combed the residential area for evidence, examining items including a jacket that was found and left on the ground, the New York Post has reported. While New York has seen a 13% rise in violent crime in the year leading up to May of 2024, recent data from January through October of 2025 show decreases in aggravated assaults, robberies, and homicides. Senator John Fetterman was released from the hospital after sustaining minor facial injuries from a fall last week. He shared a photo on social media showing 20 stitches and then thanked the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center for his care. The fall occurred after Fetterman felt lightheaded due to a ventricular fibrillation flare-up and irregular heartbeat. Fetterman has a history of health issues, including a stroke during his 2022 Senate campaign and a 2023 hospitalization for lightheadedness, CBS News has reported. He recently discussed his mental health journey, saying a therapist's advice about the importance of his children was a turning point in his recovery. President Donald Trump's plan to send $2,000 tariff dividend checks to most Americans would require new legislation, the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has said. The proposal has gained attention as the administration addresses an affordability crisis, with President Trump suggesting the checks target low and middle income households. Bessent confirmed the payments would have an income limit and focus on working families. Challenges include potential inflationary effects and a pending Supreme Court case that could void many of Trump's tariffs, reducing the funds available, Axios has reported. Congress would need to consider the proposal, though it remains unclear if there is support for such legislation. Bitcoin fell below $96,000 a coin on Friday for the first time in over 6 months, marking a nearly 24% decline since its October peak. Traders pulled back from risky assets amid fading hopes for a Federal Reserve interest rate cut in December, with the odds of a quarter-point reduction dropping to 45.9%. Ethereum also fell nearly 2% to $3,169.39 per coin, while tech stocks saw mixed movements after a recent rout. Uncertainty was highlighted by the potential skipping of some October economic data, which the Fed relies on for rate decisions, the New York Post has reported. Analysts warned that Bitcoin could see further volatility, but noted it may present buying opportunities if prices continue to weaken. SpaceX launched the Sentinel-6B ocean mapping satellite from Vandenberg Space Force Base early on Monday, marking the company's 500th orbital mission using a reused Falcon 9 rocket. The satellite continues the program's mission to precisely measure global sea surface heights and monitor rising oceans, a key indicator of climate change. Sentinel-6B carries a radar altimeter from the European Space Agency and a NASA microwave radiometer to improve measurement accuracy. SpaceX celebrated the milestone of 500 missions with flight-proven boosters, highlighting the progress of reusable rocket technology, Space.com has reported. The launch supports long-term climate monitoring and demonstrates SpaceX's ongoing role in advancing both Earth observation and space exploration. Folo Toy is pulling its AI-powered teddy bear, Kuma, after a safety report found it gave dangerous and inappropriate advice to children, including instructions on lighting matches and sexual content. The toy, powered by OpenAI's GPT-4 model, was shown to bypass safety guardrails during extended conversations, providing increasingly disturbing answers. Folo Toy said it will suspend sales and conduct a comprehensive internal safety audit, working with outside experts to improve safeguards, content filters, and child interaction protections. The report by PIRG tested 3 AI toys and found that all could give concerning responses, but Kuma was the most extreme, Futurism has reported. Experts warned that AI toys are largely unregulated and urged parents to avoid giving chatbots to children due to potential mental health risks. A Canadian dive team exploring Lake Ontario may have discovered a shipwreck far older and more intact than originally expected, potentially predating the Rapid City by 50 years. The vessel's standing mast, rope rigging, and early windlass design suggest it could date to the first half of the 19th century, offering a rare look into an underdocumented period of Great Lakes shipbuilding. Archaeologist James Conley and diver Hyson Chalk noted features such as the absence of a centerboard and metal rigging, hinting at pre-steamboat design. Experts say the wreck's pristine condition is extraordinary, given the high loss rate and short lifespans of vessels in the region, and it could help fill gaps in historical shipbuilding records, CBC News has reported. The team plans to return next season to survey the wreck and take wood samples to confirm its age. Okay, everybody, that is our show for today. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will see everyone tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time for another episode of The News with BC, and I hope everybody has a